Hey there, YouTube. Welcome to the motherfucking show. I actually have a special presentation right here. Special presentation. The other one was flashier. I like that one. Do that one instead. Special presentation. Come on. Ruining the timing here. Special presentation on nihilism. It's a special presentation. Special. One more time. See, it's a special presentation on nihilism. This is professionally produced. It's professionally produced. Presentation. Ignore the chicks on the screen. Presentation. These are cool. How about we just do this instead? This is special, and it's a presentation on nihilism, existentialism, and absurdism. Brought to you by ABC, CBS, NBC, WXY. Oh my God. Holy shit. Whoa. Holy shit. This is an ABC special presentation, 1979. Where did they even get the graphics for this in 1979? This is outrageous. Special presentation on nihilism, existentialism, and absurdism. Hey, this is abandoned nihilism. Why should we abandon nihilism? It feels so good. Wrap ourselves in the darkness and just disappear. Why not? We're just done, right? We're done evolving. We're done, progressing. We're done. Why would we do this? Why not just embrace nihilism and just accept our fate? It's chaos. It's violence. Nothing really matters. So ultimately, there's no morality. It doesn't really matter, right? Well, what if I told you that, yes, your life is inherently meaningless? Sucks. Where's my soundboard? Gotta have a comical... That sucks, right? I know. I agree. But what if I told you there's a blank canvas for humanity to paint its grand masterpiece on? Not a sucking vacuum pit where everything goes to die. What if I told you instead that this is a great opportunity for mankind to not follow a predestined plan, but to forge our path forward and create something amazing, right? Obviously, what I'm talking about is humanity reaching the stars and expanding beyond our planet. There is no set goal. There is no Jeebus high above telling us what is right and wrong. But that is up to us. What a great opportunity. How wonderful. How wonderful. How wonderful. If you must know, my belief is that existentialism is the right way to go, is the right mode to be in, the right theory, kind of how I do things, by the existential creed, existentialism, right? It's interesting, though. It's a kind of a paradox. One must acknowledge the reality of nihilism to defeat it. It's kind of the opposite of Freddy Krueger, where you have to deny that he exists, deny that he's real, and he goes away. With nihilism, you have to acknowledge its reality to get beyond it, to turn yourself into the Ubermensch. Zeo Duke over here. Man, I have such amazing Zeo Duke. Amazing. Exist first, ask questions later. Very similar to a quote by your boy, Sartre. And in the video, I have two videos queued up and an article that I'll be reading. You'll see this quote that's very similar to what Zeo Duke is saying. Exist first. I think it's essence first, or it's existence first, then essence, and that apparently flips the scripts on essentialism, which is basically says, your essence is first, your soul is first, and then you exist in reality. Shoot first, ask questions later. I don't know about that one, buddy. So we're going to see a lot of Sartre. So let's get into it. Once again, big props to my boy, Six Extermination, Universal Cycle beat tape, Memphis 666. Fucking love this this tape and the tape I was playing previously before the stream started. Amazing stuff. Support these underground artists. Please support these underground artists. Here's the link right here. All right. Let me just turn this down in my headphones. There we go. Turn that down just a bit, and I just want a little rumble, just a little rumble for you guys. I support asking questions before shooting. It's just a turn of phrase I borrowed. What are you even talking about, Zia Duke? Smoking on that pipe, homie. Smoking on that philosophy pipe. So here's this amazing article that I found on Twitter. The author is... Who's the author? How come the author isn't at the top here? I don't know. Someone, you tell me who the author is. I don't know why they're hiding this. It's a really great article. I started reading it and I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to read this whole thing. I'm not even going to finish it. I'm just going to save this for the stream. We're all going to read it together. We haven't done, yeah, you know, I'm trying to expand my horizons. Reddit isn't the source of truth, you know. But I was like, you know what? It's time. I haven't done a nihilism focused stream in a very long time. Let's jump into it. Let's talk about nihilism, existentialism, and absurdism. You know, as I said before, I believe in existentialism. I believe that, yes, life doesn't have inherent meaning, that chaos is basically the rule of the land. You know, violence is the language. And you know, and you have kind of two, you know, you have a couple choices, right? You defeatism, right, which is nihilism. You just say, well, everything's meaningless, so I just want to die and that's it. And what if I just die and then nothing will matter? And you know, it's one of those like, well, technically you're right, but here's the thing is that, you know, existentialism says, well, yes, but this is an opportunity for, you know, humanity to forge itself into something great. We have no limitations holding us back. And we get to choose how moral we want to be. We get to define what moral even means, right? Which is why science fiction is such an important thing to read when you're a young person, because it exposes you to these ideas, you know, because that's often how philosophy is interpreted through science fiction. You know, you have these alien races that have a completely different perspective on life, so they have a completely different idea of what moral is. And how do you compare those two, and how do those two clash together, right? You know, Star Trek does this all the time. Species that are, you know, that only believe in you know, that speak and believe in binary code, and you know, they had one species that was genderless. Yep, you know, they went there, and she got all hot and bothered for Riker. It was a great episode. She's all like, explain your penis to me. And Riker was like, fucking, you know, like, boing. And he actually fell in love with her. But he had to say goodbye because she, you know, her culture was different. Her species was different, and it just couldn't be. And it's so funny that all this shit happens in front of Diana. Oh my God, are we talking about Star Trek right now? Oh shit, I'm sorry. Anyway, versus absurdism, which I don't know as much as I should know about, which is why I'm very interested in reading this. All right, so let's get to it. In the 19th and 20th centuries, real quick, by the way, welcome back Zio Duke, welcome back Woke Patriot, welcome back Equal Dari, welcome back Leon. Thank you everybody for being here, and anybody who's lurking as well. Thank you so much for being here. I do appreciate the support. Thank you. In the 19th and 20th centuries, modernity came into its fullness, and with this maturation, the vestiges of the religious worldview began to fall away, revealing a crisis of meaning that we've come to call nihilism. Bum, bum, bum. Yeah, we're going to do this with sound effects. Shut up. Woke Patriot is 100% correct. The work of Philip K. Dick is, you know, one of the main authors I'm talking about. Isaac Asimov, of course, another amazing science fiction author that explores the idea of philosophy through science fiction stories. Heavily recommend. You know, I'm going to be exposing my son to as much science fiction as possible. because it really does open your eyes to a whole new perspective on life, and the meaning of life, right? This emergence of nihilism prompted philosophers to ask in earnest once again the long since cliched philosophical question: what is the meaning of life? One of this renewed Out of this renewed engagement with meaning, three trends emerged. There was the root problem, nihilism, i.e., the realization that there is no objective meaning to our lives. And wrestling with this problem, we have two responses: existentialism and absurdism. In this episode, we are going to explore what nihilism is and how these two schools of thought have attempted to manage the crisis it represents. A divine purpose. For the religious individual, life has an objective meaning. In the Judeo-Christian traditions, the history of this world is bookended by God's creation on one end and the judgment day of heaven and hell on the other. For the Buddhists and Hinduists, there is a story of karma and the endless cycle of birth and rebirths that it results in. The end point in this system is not a heaven-hell dichotomy, but a liberation known as moksha in Hinduism and nirvana in Buddhism. In these Eastern and Western systems of belief, humanity has a privileged place in reality. But as the modernist worldview comes to its full fruition, it casts off the residual holdovers from the religious mindset, and this objective meaning dissolves. As we develop a better and better model of reality, and no longer need to rely on divinities to provide an explanation of the world, we begin to jettison these divinities and the beliefs attached to them. As Nietzsche pointed out, Christianity prized truthfulness and sharpened this virtue in its adherents, only to fall to the very sword it had honed. Wow, that's brilliant, and that's so true. You know, one of the virtues of being Christian is being truthful to oneself and truthful to people around them. Of course, they don't really follow that nowadays, but that's the idea, right? And he makes a good point. People became so truthful to themselves and the world around them, they started to realize how fake Christianity was. In the 19th century, modernity lurched into the secular mode with a number of explosive works. The birth of the meaning crisis. In the 1830s, David Strauss published his Life of Jesus, and it went off like a stick of dynamite in a fireworks factory. Ooh, I gotta read this. It quickly became a controversial literary phenomenon that eroded the belief in the Bible as a historical book. 1841 saw the publishing of Ludwig Feuerbach's The Essence of Christianity, that explored the idea that God was a psychological projection of humanity. Oh, you can't say that. In the 1800s? Feuerbach, whose name means Firebrook, was a major influence on Karl Marx, who said that there is no other, quote, there is no other road for you to truth and freedom except that leading through the brook of fire. Following Strauss and Feuerbach, the real strike in the heart of the religious narrative was the publication of Darwin's On the Origin of Species. Uh-oh! We're already here? Welcome back, Lenny from South Boston. It's your boy. Make sure you check out the Discord real quick. Sorry to interlude here, but check out the Discord if you want to see. He's doing all this in the role request section. It's all right. But check out the role request section if you want to see Lenny's adorable dog on his brand new garbage fuel funded Chex Quest CD blanket. And he looks absolutely comfortable on it. Make sure you check it out today. If you want to get this blanket yourself, make sure you check out the merch section of the Garbage Fuel store. This cultural trend culminated in the catastrophic event that Nietzsche's Madman talks about in The Gay Science. Nietzsche's Madman, like the anecdotal Diogenes, lights a lantern in the bright morning and goes into the marketplace searching for God, only to be mocked by the townsfolk with all the sarcasm of triumphant modernism. And then the madman gives a speech to the people that echoes God's speech at the climax of the book of Job. This ought to be good. Let's see if I can do this. Give this, let's see if I can get through this without mispronouncing any of these old-ass words. So here we go. From The Gay Science, from Nietzsche. It's going to be distracting me. Whither is God? He cried. I shall tell you. We have killed him. You and I, all of us are his murderers. But how have we done this? How were we able to drink up the sea? Who gave us the sponge to wipe away the entire horizon? What did we do when we unchained this earth from its sun? Whither it is moving now? Whither we are moving now? Away from all suns? Are we not plunging continually? Backward, sideward, forward, in all directions? Is there any up or down left? Are we not straying as though an infinite nothing? Do we not hear anything yet of the noise of the gravediggers who are burying God? Do we not smell anything yet of God's decomposition? Gods, too, decompose. God is dead. God remains dead. And we have killed him. How shall we, the murderers of all murderers, confront ourselves? What was holiest and most powerful of all that the world has yet owned has bled to death under our knives. Who will wipe this blood off us? The gay science. This passage from Nietzsche is like the clarion call of nihilism. It proclaims the undermining of the objective values. Backward, sideward, forward, up, down. All these are the ways we orient ourselves in the external world. And we see this by, the charlatans of the world. Ben Shapiro is a big one for this, for, everything through a religious lens. Matt Walsh, another good example. But they basically say, if we don't have this theocratic religious dogma that, the world will basically, go insane because we'll forget our morality. Ironically, individuals like Ben Shapiro and Matt Walsh and mainly people like him who want to emulate these people, they often will justify their hedonism through their religious, beliefs because they can ultimately be forgiven. So, ironically, their religion is not holding them back from the hedonism that they're saying that humanity will embrace once they've truly deleted religion from from our daily lives. The death of God throws our entire relationship to reality, our life's compass, into disarray. Oh, this is Diogenes? Yeah, Diogenes searching for an honest man. God. I mean, is Diogenes just the motherfucking goat or what? He is the true greatest of all time motherfuckers, dude. The singular source of keeping it real comes from this man. I swear to God, dude. The motherfucking king of keeping it real, Diogenes. I love this man. The meaning of God's death. Yep, okay. Just waiting for it to kick in. Okay. It's a good little grumble. That's all right. All right. The meaning of God's death. To put it more philosophically, God was the foundation of external values and of objective meaning. Without God, without divinity, the external world lacks a telos. It lacks a purpose and a meaning by which we can orient ourselves. The objective ground of morality and of human purpose has fallen away, and this vacuum is disastrous, right? The walls are closing in. We're screwed. No one believes in God, so we're all just going to rape and pillage and destroy ourselves. Would you believe that this is not only not new, but this kind of fear-mongering has been going on for hundreds of years? It's amazing. Some traditions truly never die. And so, this is the crisis that nihilism speaks to. By fully leaning into the implications of biblical criticism and the insights of Copernicus and Newton and later Darwin, reality is no longer geocentric and anthropocentric. And with the lawful universe that Newton began to expose and the evolutionary story that Darwin uncovered, there is no need for a god except maybe in the narrow, denuded role of Aristotle's uncaused cause, or as the animating spark that set life in motion. The material explanations for the external world proved far more effective than the religious ones, and so these religious stories were co-signed to the trash heap. The trouble was that these dodgy religious explanations were attached to the grounding of human morality and meaning. The death of God heralded a meaning crisis. Diogenes was just too funny. Yeah, Alexander the Great, came to him. He's like, hey, what do you want? I'll literally give you anything. I'm the most powerful man on the planet. And Diogenes was like, get out of my sun. Get out of my light. That's what you could do. I mean, the motherfucker was amazing. He was also completely insane and totally like you think you'd want to hang out with Diogenes? Absolutely not, dude. He was filthy. He slept with dogs on the street. He would masturbate in public. He would just fucking start cranking it wherever he was standing if he felt like it. And he once again, absolutely filthy. Absolutely filthy. He probably smelled terrible. Okay, here we go. What is existentialism? This is the root problem of which existentialism and absurdism grew. Before we look at the response of each school, it's worth addressing why there is so much confusion around the difference between existentialism and absurdism. This article is amazing. The trouble lies with the usage of the term existentialism itself, which is used more or less broadly depending on the writer. In some definitions, Camus and his absurdism are sub-schools of existentialism, whereas for others, they are completely distinct. It kind of seems the same to me, basically, to me. But you know me, I'm the kind of guy that's like, okay, can we stop with the asking, questions and get to the action part? I'm very action-oriented, right? So I believe that philosophy is extremely important, and we need to be asking these questions and pondering these questions, but we can't do that at the detriment of progress, right? Eventually, we got to put down our notebooks and pick up the hammer and sickle and believe in Karl Marx and start reading the motherfucking Communist Manifesto, and here we go, baby. Here we go. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I don't like commies. Not a fan of commies. Okay. The trouble lies with the usage of the term existentialism itself, which is used more or less broadly depending on the writer. Existentialism often includes thinkers of the 19th century, such as Kierkegaard and Nietzsche, who far predate the origination of the term in the mid-20th century. To complicate matters further, you have people who are often categorized as existentialists, such as Heidegger and Camus, who publicly declared that they were not existentialists. And so the exact definition of existentialism is a bit nebulous. And from my research, this is just like people who were like kind of had an ego, who just like, I'd prefer the term to be, something that doesn't sound as good and doesn't really roll off the tongue very well. That's what I would prefer this to be called. It seems kind of arbitrary, right? Because it works, right? So let's use the term. Sartre was cool about that. Sartre was awesome about that. He was just like, it's existentialism. Yes, I'm an existentialist. Let's move on. Love this. I love Sartre. He's amazing. For the purpose of this episode, existentialism is going to center on the philosophy of Jean-Paul Sartre. Perfect. Sartre is the philosopher most synonymous with existentialism for a number of reasons. He has not only defined the term existentialist and coined many of its key terms and phrases, but he is one of the few philosophers who self-identified as an existentialist. Right? Homeboy kept it real. Homeboy kept it real. It's like, yes, because like a lot of people like really hate labels, and they hate the labels that other people create for them, right? But I guess he came up with it, so it's not exactly like someone gave him that title. Existentialist response. In tackling the problem of nihilism and the absence of objective meaning, Sartre's existentialist response was to first define what it is to be human. And this is where his famous phrase of existence precedes essence. That's what I was I think we were both in the chat trying to emulate this. Existence precedes essence. And it's so simple. It's so true. existence precedes essence. And the essentialists say, no, first God molds us in heaven, I guess, right? And then he puts us in a baby, I guess. I don't know. It's, there's a million different versions, right? Just pick one, right? You get what I'm saying. Famous phrase of existence precedes essence comes into play. Essence is a term that goes back to ancient Greek philosophy. For Aristotle, the essence of a thing is its defining characteristics. The notion of essence is tied up with the related idea of telos, which is the purpose of a thing. Hence, the essence of a knife is to cut, the essence of a cup is to hold liquid, and the essence of a boat is to sail on water. I'm sure Diogenes had an opinion on this one. In the classical view of philosophy, the essence of a thing precedes its existence. If a cup can't hold liquid, it's not a cup, since it is lacking the aspect that is essential to it. Before the figurative death of God, it would have been said that our essence precedes our existence. Humans had a specific purpose. For Aristotle, we were essentially rational. For Christians, we were a fallen people that must aspire to salvation. But with nihilism, the bottom fell out of these illusions, and what was revealed is that there is no objective meaning. There is no purpose that exists that is greater than humanity. And so we are faced with a void of meaning. We live in a meaningless universe, and so how do we define what we are? What is the essence of being human? For Sartre, the essence is defined by our existence. What we essentially are is what we do, how we act in the world. So our actions are what we are. Existence. Did I say that correctly? What is the essence of being human? For Sartre, the essence is defined by our existence. Yes, okay. What we essentially are is what we do, how we act in the world. As he puts it in Existentialism is a humanism. Man is nothing else but that which he makes of himself. Perfect. Man. Amazing. So simple. but so true. He says that there is no human nature, since there is no God to conceive of it. Man is not only that which he conceives himself to be, but also that which he wills himself to be. Exactly. And since he conceives of himself only after he exists, just as he wills himself to be after being thrown into existence, man is nothing other than what he makes of himself. This is the first principle of existentialism. And I agree. And so, faced with the void of meaninglessness that nihilism presents, the existentialist answer is that we must create our own meaning through our action. It's a grand canvas that we get to paint our masterpiece called humanity. Isn't that amazing? We just achieved successful nuclear fusion. It's huge. It's huge. It's huge. Okay? We just landed on the moon, and people are like, "Yeah, okay, but did you see the Kim Kardashian pussy farted?" It's amazing. That is the existentialist answer to the problem of nihilism. Is that there is no objective meaning, so we create our own way. We create our own way that we live our life. Yeah. So this is the absurdist response. Uh-oh. Here comes the guy. So, we find the perfect thing, and here comes the guy with the, maybe it's not. Albert Camus. Handsome fellow. Look at this guy. The absurd is the idea that we find in Kierkegaard, but is fully developed into a philosophy by Albert Camus in his book-length essay, The Myth of Sisyphus. What are you booing about? That I'm not stopping this thing on a dime and answering every question you're asking in my chat, Zio? I'm trying. It's a special presentation. Did you not see the special? It's a special presentation. Okay, this is a special presentation. It's the presentation. Oh, he's booing the absurdist. The absurdist. Okay, I'm the jackass. I'm like that guy who like made fun of that person in their chat for talking about their dead mother. I'm actually horrible. I'm actually horrible. Boo earns. Okay. The absurd is the idea that we find in Kierkegaard, but is fully developed into a philosophy by Albert Camus in his book-length essay, The Myth of Sisyphus. Absurdism is his response to the problem of nihilism. He opens The Myth of Sisyphus with one of the most iconic lines in the history of philosophy. Ooh, this ought to be good. Quote, "There is but one truly serious philosophical problem, and that is suicide. Judging whether life is or is not worth living amounts to answering the fundamental question of philosophy." He literally said it just like that. In facing into the problem of nihilism, we are asking whether the lack of objective purpose means that life is not worth living. The absurd is key to Camus's framing of the question. The absurd is the meeting between two things, the cold, apathetic, and meaningless objective reality on the one hand, and humanity's inherent drive for meaning on the other. The absurd arises from the meeting of our hunger of meaning. That's in the sentence. The absurd arises from our meeting of our hunger for the meaning with a universe that is meaningless. It is the tension between this drive for meaning and the impossibility of satisfying it, right? We want to discover if God is real, and it's a paradox that we may never truly, like ever really truly, right, discover. We'll be up in space in our moon base and still be like, I don't know, man. Maybe God's real, dog. I don't know, man. Maybe all this is a gift from God. Oh, thank you, Robot Jeeves. Thank you so much for my robot coffee on my moon base home. I farm Mars potatoes on my moon base. Thank you, coffee robot. We are all immersed in this absurd tension. And according to Camus, we have three alternatives for dealing with this problem. Number one, Roblox. The first option is to commit Roblox. If life has no meaning, then why keep living? Camus finds this option unsatisfactory. He points out that there is no more meaning in death than there is in life, and that it simply evades the problem. 2, the leap of faith. The second option is to take a leap of faith, to believe in some doctrine or ideology that tells us there is a meaning we must have faith in. This can be a religion like Christianity or an ideology like Marxism. Oh, boo. Oh, it's not a religion. Boo, it's not a religion. It's not a religion. Kind of is. Kind of is. Talk to your average tanky on Twitter and tell me it's not a fucking religion. It's obviously not a religion, but come on. These guys, like, we just need Stalin back, and we need to implement Marxism harder, and then everything will be better. God! It, like, literally, they post, like, you know, like, fan videos of Stalin, dude. Okay? They need to shut the fuck up. Thank you, coffee. Oh, we have the best coffee on Mars. We swallow a pill of bullshit, and in return, we get reprieve from the absurd. Oh, that's so true. It's so true. Leon is pointing out that Marxists aren't tankies. Marx was ideologically far from Stalin. Leon, that's actually a good point, and thank you for pointing that out. I will take that criticism, and I'll fully agree. Thank you, Leon, for setting me straight there. I agree with that. Camus terms this option philosophical suicide, which is what it is. Option number 3, absurdism. You're not even going to give us existentialism? Boy, Camus was a catty bitch when it came to existentialism. So our third and only third option is absurdism. Camus finds these two options insincere, and so he proposes a third option, to embrace the insatiable tension, to embrace the absurd, to lean into it. The third option is absurdism. It's hard not to agree, right? You know, existentialist and absurdist pretty close together. Absurdism is a rebellion against meaninglessness. Love it. We do not escape from the absurd through death or philosophical suicide. We meet the absurd as it is, without escape, and with integrity, and we maintain the tension of the absurd in us without turning away. Right, Lenny? It seems a little familiar. Absurdism versus existentialism. Here we go. Meat and potatoes time. Camus incites us to a life without consolidation. Consolation. Sorry. Consolation. Camus incites us to a life without consolation. A life characterized by acute consciousness and of rebellion against its own morality, mortality, and its limits. He looks at the existentialists and rejects what he ultimately sees as their escapism and irrationality, saying that they defy what crushes them and find reason to hope in what impoverishes them. That forced hope is religious in all of them. An interesting critique, because one would say my optimism about humanity reaching the stars is forced hope, and I have a religious belief in humanity's ability to work together on Earth to expand our species into space. Absurdism means holding aloof of the temptation to create meaning or to buy into some meaning. The absurdist rebels against this false satisfaction of our hunger for meaning. Instead, Camus says that we must hold the tension, hold the space of absurd meaninglessness. As he puts it, the only way to deal with an unfree world is to become so absolutely free that your very existence is an act of rebellion. Yeah, so that's kind of Diogenes, right? I don't know. I don't want to live amongst people that, you know, poop in the streets. I'd like a little bit of I'd like a little framework. You know, it's not a religious dogma, but what's wrong? What's wrong with saying, you know, have some pride in your species, right? And try to do better by it. Sisyphus, the absurd hero. Camus's philosophy of absurdism is best captured in an image, that of the Greek mythological figure, Sisyphus. And here we have a complete picture here. Welcome back, Davey. Good to see you. Nice ass. And I like this one because the rock, a lot of the pictures of Sisyphus show this rock being huge. I like this one because the rock actually does seem like I could actually do that. I could probably get that up the hill, right? The myth, just give up already. The myth that you could get it to the very top, though, is really the crux of that, right? Because he'll get it up there, but every time he can't get it up, can't get it up to the very top, I guess, I wonder what happens. Does like a big skeleton pop out of the hill and like flick it? It's like a Halloween toy. It just comes out. Just comes out, gives it a flick. Boink. Okay. This is a very good song, but it's also very distracting. What happened to my... Oh. This is so annoying. My music. Come on, buddy. Oh, it's only a 20-minute album. That's why. Okay. Camus's philosophy of absurdism is best captured in an image, that of the Greek mythological figure Sisyphus. Sisyphus was the founder of the Greek city of Corinth. He was known to be the craftiest of all humans and craftier than Zeus himself. When he was sent to the underworld, he managed to trick his way out. In some stories, he tricked Thanatos. In other stories, Hades, and in others, Persephone. He escapes and returns to the earth and revels in the pleasure of the world before eventually being returned to the underworld, where he's punished to roll a boulder up a hill and watch it roll back down, again at which point he returns to the bottom of the hill and repeats the process quite literally ad infinitum. There's 3 reasons why Sisyphus is Camys's icon of absurdism. There's his love of life, seen by his cheating his way out of the underworld and returning to enjoy the pleasures of the world once again, which is strongly antithetical to the life-denying brand of nihilism. The second reason is Sisyphus's punishment, the absurdity of rolling a rock up a hill only to see it roll back down again and being forced every time to roll it back up again, knowing the inevitable outcome. Sisyphus is stuck in an internal cycle of absurdity. The third reason Sisyphus is Camys's embodiment of absurdism is that he is a rebel. He outwits death and the gods to return to life. He rebels against the fundamental order of things. He rebels against the gods. All of these points come together in Camys's great line that closes out his book. Quote, "I leave Sisyphus at the foot of the mountain. One always finds one's burden again, but Sisyphus teaches the higher fidelity that negates the gods and raises rocks. He too concludes that all is well. This universe henceforth, without a master, seems to him neither sterile nor futile. Each atom of that stone, each mineral flake of that night-filled mountain, in it of itself forms a world. The struggle itself towards the heights is enough to fill a man's heart. One must imagine Sisyphus happy." And yeah, to that, I gotta say, I'm not an absurdist. Not a fan. I don't believe in Stockholm syndrome here. You know, I don't believe in embracing your slavery and learning to love your chain. I believe in forging a way forward. I believe there are things that we don't understand. I believe, you know, take an example. A character inside a comic book. They realize they're in a comic book. Then they start to study the comic book that they're in. They start to understand its limitations. They start to understand what it's made of. That's what I think the human being should do. They should start to understand space, its limitations. Start to understand multiple dimensions. I believe that humanity is capable of seeing these multiple dimensions with the right lens, with the right tools, with the right technology. I think we can do this. At the very least, we should try. And it's the trying and failing that should be embraced. We shouldn't just accept that we're on this endless treadmill and then just embrace the treadmill, because it's always going to be there. Right? We're always going to be 3-dimensional creatures living in the confines of this insane vacuum that is seemingly devoid of life. Maybe. Or is literally so vast that life just has that hard of a time seeing itself, because it's so spread out across this almost infinite universe. And so absurdism is not about finding a meaning to life, but about rebelling against the absurdity of life. It's about standing aloof of the demand to find a meaning, rebelling against the absurd game itself, and affirming life for what it is. It is to struggle with integrity, because this struggle towards the heights is enough to fill a man's heart. Boo, ate it. Faced with the crisis of meaninglessness that nihilism presents, the absurdist doesn't throw a tantrum and kill themselves. Well, at least they got that going for them. I think we can all agree that nihilism is shit. The absurdist doesn't grab on to the nearest life raft and commit philosophical suicide, i.e. religion. The absurdist affirms that struggle and enjoys life for what it is. One must imagine Sisyphus happy. And look, I don't agree with it, but it's not the worst philosophy in the world. So to summarize, nihilism is the realization that there is no objective meaning. Existentialism answers this by saying that it is possible to create our own meaning through the choices we make in our lives. Absurdism, on the other hand, says that we shouldn't seek to create our own meaning, but we should stare into the face of the absurd and rebel against this meaninglessness. I mean, I think you could easily interpret that rebelling against the meaninglessness of nihilism to be, progressing, to discover more, to spit in the face of whatever this is, whatever existence is, and reveal its secret. To say, no, I see this, I understand this. This is not impossible. So who wrote this? This was amazing. Who the hell wrote this? I don't even know who the hell wrote this. This was great. I love this. Nihilism versus existentialism versus absurdism. And I just have share. I mean, who the hell wrote this? It was great. I loved every second of it. So I thought on top of, my terrible reading and my interludes, which are absolutely unbearable, so I appreciate anyone who stuck through that. I thought I would show a couple videos, one on absurdism and the other one on existentialism. I guess I will, in this, just to follow the same format of the article, I'll start with existentialism, and then we will end on absurdism. And that will be the end of my special presentation. Special presentation. That'll be the end of my special presentation. I can't find the author, Lenny. I don't know who the hell wrote it. Special. This is my favorite one. 1979. Holy shit! Who? This was cutting edge. How the hell did they make? Was this just animation? 1979. That looks like it was made by an Amiga. All right, let's go ahead and start with existentialism here. What is the meaning of life? Well, the meaning of life is obviously fucking Christianity. So vote Trump and support fascism. Wonder if the text appears on any websites indexed by a search engine. Maybe it was written by AI. I don't know.
Meaning of life. It is likely that you have asked yourself this question before. This is known as an existential crisis, a state in which you re-examine your life in the context of death and are impacted by the contemplation of the meaning, purpose, or value of life. Existentialism is a philosophy that explores this problem of human existence, with an emphasis on the individual who starts in an apparently meaningless world, and who seeks to create meaning in a world without inherent meaning. Existentialism is most commonly associated with several 19th and 20th century philosophers: Søren Kierkegaard, Friedrich Nietzsche, Fyodor Dostoevsky, Martin.
Fancy people say Nietzsche, not Nietzsche. Nietzsche. Okay, it's Porsche. Okay, I spent $400,000 on this vehicle. You're going to say it correctly. Porsche. You're poor. It means you're poor. Cha.
Heidegger, Jean-Paul Sartre, and Albert Camus. However, many of these thinkers never used the term existentialist to describe themselves. Some of them even rejected the label, while others accepted it. What they did share is a common template. Many of them regarded traditional systematic or academic philosophies too abstract and remote from concrete human experience, and focus on the authenticity of the individual. Danish philosopher Søren Kierkegaard is regarded as the father of existentialism, who, along with Nietzsche, provided the basic foundations of 19th.
What's up with all these philosophers being total smoke shows? This guy is so hot. I'd hit that. Nietzsche, not so much, dude. Yeah, no, I ain't hitting that.
19th century existentialism. Dostoevsky is a key figure as well. Although he was a novelist more than a philosopher, he was one of the first to properly define key existentialist ideas. Walter Kaufmann declares, "It is as if Kierkegaard had stepped right out of Dostoevsky's pen." Thus, existentialism is not just about philosophy, but also combined together into novels, literature, and poetry. Notes from the Underground is one of the most important works of existentialist literature.
And yes, we will be covering Notes from the Underground very soon. I'm thinking maybe I'll do a audiobook stream where I just let the audiobook play, and it'll take like 10, 15 hours, but I'll just, be on stream the whole time. I'm thinking maybe doing that for Christmas. Let me know if you think that's a good idea. I've done that. I think I've done that a few times.
Dostoevsky attempts to justify the existence of individual freedom as a necessary part of humankind. He argues that the abstraction of ideologies has no basis in what one actually is, and that makes a person live an inauthentic life. One of Dostoevsky's existential messages is that the purpose of life is to act properly by being authentic to yourself. Kierkegaard's work focuses on the individual as well, highlighting the importance of subjectivity, personal choice, and commitment. Although he was a Christian, he was very critical of Christendom, which was represented by the Danish established church, who made people live falsely religious lives. People became so absorbed in the crowd that they became mere numbers of a herd. When religion is integrated into society, the social scene becomes the religious scene, and for that reason, religion had died. Kierkegaard suggests that the only way out of existential angst is to take a leap of faith towards Christianity, emphasizing a personal relationship with God, the subjective truth of the individual. It is the ultimate irrational experience, which is the most rational thing to do. Nietzsche, on the other hand, was completely disillusioned with religion, announcing that God is dead. He calls Christianity slave morality, which resents the virtues of the powerful and promotes turning the other cheek. He wanted to create life-affirming individuals, calling for a master morality, which does not intend to oppress others, but rather create new values and ways of life, through a revaluation of all values, giving way to the figure of the Übermensch. Thus man becomes God. It is interesting to see the profound doctrinal differences between the thinkers, even while sharing a common template. Dostoevsky and Kierkegaard were theistic thinkers, while Nietzsche was atheistic. The term existentialism was actually coined in the mid-1940s by Christian existentialist Gabriel Marcel, who focused on the modern individual's struggle in a technologically dehumanizing society. Marcel later came to reject the label he himself had coined, to dissociate himself from figures such as fellow French existentialist Jean-Paul Sartre, preferring the term Christian Socratic in honor of Kierkegaard's work with Socratic irony. Sartre adopted the existentialist label and greatly helped popularize existentialist thoughts. He proposes the famous maxim, existence precedes essence. Ancient Greek philosophers Plato and Aristotle believed that essence precedes existence. Every human being is born with an essence. That is what gives us the properties of being a human being. This is known as essentialism. Sartre flips this around and tells us that we are a blank canvas, that we create and make ourselves through what we do, and thus existence precedes essence. In this way, our life is a work of art. However, this freedom also becomes a slightly horrifying realization. Man is condemned to be free, because once thrown into the world, he is responsible for everything he does. Martin Heidegger is another important existentialist who talks about the idea of thrownness, that we are all thrown into the world, arbitrarily born into a given family, within a given culture, and at a given moment in human history.
And this is really interesting, right? Because it really does reflect that, that feeling of just, it's just, I'm here because I'm here, right? Like there was no fate, there was none of that predestined nothing. I'm just here because I'm here.
These givens are facticities. The tasks we decide to be constantly engaged in and care about have very little to do with us. They're sort of decided for us by the particular facticity that we were born into. We are thrown with neither prior knowledge nor individual opinion into a world that was there before and will remain there after we're gone. Sartre would tell us that freedom is what you do with what's been done to you. He was very influenced by Heidegger's masterpiece, Being and Time, publishing his own book titled Being and Nothingness. However, Heidegger distances himself from Sartre's existentialism due to major differences in their ideas. Once you realize that you are completely free, the responsibility that follows and the infinite possibilities that are open to you creates a sort of dread. It leads many people to adopt what Sartre calls bad faith. a way of denying the fundamental nature of our freedom and responsibility and accepting something as true that might not be convincing but that is convenient and easy for us to believe in. He gives the example of a waiter who does not enjoy his job but goes to work every day and assumes the role of a waiter without being fulfilled. And when he thinks of applying to a different job and all the difficult questions that would come along with that sort of life choice, he convinces himself that it would be better to just remain a waiter. This is similar to Kierkegaard's idea that anxiety is the dizziness of freedom. One may possess the ability to freely act, but if one never uses it and thinks about an endless sea of possibilities, one is effectively not capable of freely acting. One gets lost in the infinite, as Kierkegaard puts it, and lives a totally unimaginative everyday life. The other part is getting lost in the finite, that is, not considering enough possibilities and just mindlessly going around the demands of culture and social expectations. People live a complete lie. They live because of what everyone tells them that's what one does. This can be a scary realization, as most people are not aware of this. They see everything they do as their own choice. Similarly, Heidegger tells us that inauthenticity occurs when we embody only our facticity, the reality we're being thrown into, and our fallenness, falling into tasks that other people tell us to do. One becomes das Man, the they, surrendering one's existence to a formless entity. Instead of choosing to do something that we want, we do it because that is what they do. Albert Camus was an acquaintance of sort. However, the disagreements between them emerged quickly and they eventually split. Camus is considered to be an existentialist, even though he firmly rejected the term throughout his life. He contributed to the rise of the philosophy known as absurdism. Camus describes the absurd as a conflict between the human tendency to seek inherent value and meaning in life and the human inability to find any meaning in a purposeless, meaningless, or chaotic and irrational universe. Man seeks for meaning only to receive the unreasonable silence of the universal response. Camus states, "I do not believe in God,
Camus.
and
I knew I was saying Camus incorrectly. Camus? For real? Bro, it looks like Camus. Camus?
I'm not an atheist." This reflects the notion of the absurd. The search of the possibility of the existence of God is humanly impossible, but this also entails that the proof that God does not exist is impossible too. The myth of Sisyphus is a fierce expression of the absurd. Sisyphus is the absurd hero, condemned to a lifetime of rolling a large boulder up a hill, only to reach the top and have the boulder roll back down to the bottom for him to start all over again for eternity. This incredibly vivid imagery is an allegory of the human condition, of our futile search for meaning in an indifferent and meaningless universe. While working on the same mundane tasks, we all have to push our own boulders, only to watch it roll back down. Although all this only scratches the surface of existentialism, it can serve as a guide to explore its diverse thinkers, with core ideas such as authenticity, individuality, subjectivity, freedom, and responsibility, in order to understand and pursue the meaning of your life.
Amazing. So there you go. That's existentialism in 10 minutes. Let's go ahead and hop into, because this is a special presentation. This is a special presentation. Wake up. This is a special presentation, okay? Special. Right about nihilism. Wake up. Okay, now we're going to do absurdism. 10 minutes on absurdism, and then we're done, okay? And then you can go back to your juice pops and Minecraft, okay? I know, I've ripped you away from your tablets long enough. Okay, I just had to jingle some keys. This is a special presentation. God damn it. All right, absurdism.
It begins with nihilism, the philosophy that life has no meaning and the world is here for no reason. Do a little dance, make absolutely no love, get incredibly down tonight. Suddenly, a existential...
This one's more upbeat and funny, so this one shouldn't put you to sleep. Welcome back, DCH.
Nihilism is getting popular. The main idea being, okay, maybe we aren't here for divine reasons, and the world has no absolute purpose, but that's kind of neat because it means you have no shackles, beholden neither to gods nor kings.
Exactly.
First and foremost, you're not an employee or a citizen or a digital nomad, but a person. First,
Exactly.
you are a person, also meaning that every decision is your own, but also meaning no one is coming to the rescue. And most importantly,
Yes.
no one is really in charge.
Exactly.
And it's hard not to sympathize today with that. Have you looked around? Where are the real adults? Billionaires don't seem all that happy, politicians don't seem all that uncorrupted, and personally I won't be taking any life advice from someone who dresses up as a chess piece.
Yep.
The beauty of that anarchy though, one can self-create meaning. Life is not something done to one, but something one does. Albert Camus had other ideas though. A French-Algerian
Camus.
thinker, originally destined
Fuck, man. Can I go back in time and reread that whole article where I pronounce it correctly? I should have watched both these videos before I read the article. Fuck! I did Job correctly. I did Sisyphus. I did Diogenes. I was hitting it, man. I was hitting those words. And I fucked up, called him Camus. It's Camus. Oh, that drives me nuts.
to be a footballer until he contracted tuberculosis, Camus agreed with some of existentialism's diagnoses, but disagreed about the medicine. Sure, we're abandoned to freedom, he granted, but so what? The real problem is that we are machines hungry for meaning and purpose, yet destined to look for it in a universe that is nevertheless cruel, unpredictable, and apparently completely apathetic to us. We will be hatched, matched, and dispatched, all the while probably never working out what it was all for. Don't look at me like that, you clicked on this video. Well, Camus reasoned, there are maybe only 3 courses of action available to us in such a ridiculous situation. 1. Refusing to play the game, as in ending one's life. And don't do that, please. 2. A leap of
Roblox.
faith, or placing faith in something that there is meaning somewhere. This could be anything from believing in a deity to consulting a sentient melon called Terence before making major life decisions. Or 3. Absurdism, full recognition and acceptance of our absurd situation, of the harshnesses and slights of life, of the fact that we'll probably never attain absolute truth and purpose, and not surrendering to that in a blaze of nihilism, but living in spite of it, a revolt against meaninglessness itself. As Camus put it, the only way to deal with an unfree world is to become
And ironically, people are basically living their life like this already, right? They're attaching themselves to religion, you know, and all that. But ultimately, what they're doing is they are rebelling against the absurdity of existence, the fact that there is no inherent meaning, and they're living a full and happy life regardless.
so absolutely free that your very existence is an act of rebellion. Because it isn't meaninglessness that hurts, Camus insisted. It's the contradiction of needing meaning and not getting it, particularly our inability to let go of the contradiction itself. For example, ever since my teens, I've been rather terrorized by the question, why is there something rather than nothing? Because what we're really asking, probably, is why is there anything here at all? Meaning, presumably, either the universe had a beginning in time, or it had no beginning in time. Well, alright, let's imagine everything began with the biggest of bangs 14 billion years ago. Fine, but if that was the beginning of time and stuff existing, then there can't have been anything before that by definition. Nothing but nothingness. And how can nothingness create stuff? Even if something exotic preceded the Big Bang, like a quantum fluctuation or whatever. Well, alright, but that's not nothing, that's a different something. And we're back to asking the same question. What came before that? And that? And that? Looking for the first uncaused cause until one's head simply fucking explodes. Okay, maybe creation has been around forever then. The universe had no beginning in time. Well, that solved the whole something from nothing problem. Maybe the Big Bang was the next iteration in a cycle of universes. Expansion, collapse, expansion, collapse. Yeah, okay, but how does that work either? Maybe some weird perversion of general relativity, maybe the universe creates itself from the end of time. But again, shouldn't that have started somewhere, even if the starting point is in our future? How can any system exist without a defined beginning? And yet, if the universe had one, then it must have come from literally nothing. I used to find, if I thought about this for too long, it inspired the same kind of horror as when you realize that third joint was a bad idea. Why do both positions seem reasonable and yet completely
Never
contradictory?
a bad idea.
In academic bollocksy talk, this is called an antinomy. 2 premises that work fine by themselves but won't reconcile. A paradox, in other words. And the beginning of the universe is hardly the only one. Like, is matter infinitely divisible, or is matter finitely divisible? Can you keep blowing particles open until you reach a string or quark or something at the bottom of nature that you can't divide anymore?
Yeah.
And if so, why? Or can you just keep peeling the universe open like an onion, divisible all the way down? And if so, why? And for that matter, have all events already happened and we just have to live through them, much like sitting through a film where the real is already there in the projector? Or is the present the only true moment, the past gone, the future not existing yet? In either case, why? Or are all of our choices predetermined by every material state that came before us, giving us no real choice in anything? How to tell the difference? Likewise, one day could we conceivably know everything about how the world works? And on that day, could we be sure there wasn't something missing? Ignorant of our own ignorance? How would we know? Then there are all the wibbly human paradoxes. Why do terrible things happen to good people and vice versa? Why can't we gain full control of our own minds? Where is the line between the conscious and the subconscious? Are the mechanics of consciousness us as well? Are we all of it, the mechanism and the mind? Because it doesn't feel that way. And finally, if we've been abandoned to total freedom and drift about in the existential ocean captaining a ship of one, with no rules to life but those we give it, how are we supposed to find meaning or belonging or just the bare basics of a reason to live in a universe this unkind and uncaring, where hopelessness seems inevitable, pitted daily against tragedies with no explanation, maladies defying medicine, and let's be honest, other humans who are just straight up cocks? How can anyone live like this, with so much unexplained or random or totally contradictory? Who wouldn't lose their minds? Who wouldn't fall into nihilism? Who wouldn't lose all hope and reason for being?
Yeah.
Albert Camus wouldn't. That's where all this is heading, obviously.
That was great. What a great sequence. Wow, this guy's amazing. Make sure you like and subscribe. This is really something else. This is Ex Herba. Definitely going to give that a like. And you know what? I think I will give it the subscribe. The tentative subscribe. I'll take a look at some of their other content. But you should like and subscribe. Do it, your algorithm is not nearly as important as mine. My algorithm is treasured to me. You're not allowed to screw that up. But no, I think that was a great sequence. That was something else. It's amazing. All these amazing producers and editors, these great visuals, and they don't get anywhere close to TV. And it's like, no, this is much better than something on, History Channel.
Another small detour first, though, because I wrote this next bit while I was quite high. Hey, in 1914, Ernest Shackleton and a crew of 27 embarked on an expedition. Their plan? To cross the Antarctic by foot. So, off they sailed south on the South Atlantic Ocean. 4.5 stars on Google reviews for some reason. By early 1915, however, their ship, the Endurance, was trapped in pack ice, inexorably drifting south in it. Soon enough, the ice kindly crushed the Endurance and sank it, and soon enough, there they were, lost on the frozen plains of nothing. And so they wandered, by foot, by lifeboat, for months. They came upon an island, finally, Elephant Island, the first land in 500 days. But so what? They were still marooned and no help was coming. Shackleton and a few others set off to mount a rescue effort, while the rest of the crew stayed behind to try and, not die. Shackleton found help 800 miles later, returned to his crew, and everyone got home alive eventually. And even though the expedition was a failure technically, it's remembered today as one of the greatest tales of modern survival. But what's strange is reading about how the crew lived all those months stuck, intolerably cold, waiting for Shackleton to come back with help, though knowing it was very unlikely he would return. They put on silly plays for each other, made a tradition of moonlight walks, and laughed often. 1,000 miles from anyone, perhaps the most isolated humans in the world at the time, they retained their humanity. As Alfred Lansing writes, in some ways they had come to know themselves better. In this lonely world of ice and emptiness, they had achieved at least a limited kind of contentment. They had been tested and found not wanting. Which is exactly where absurdism begins. Because aren't we on the ice, freezing and isolated? Aren't we tortured by the same questions the stranded crew were? Is rescue coming? Will we make it? What the hell are we even doing here? Aren't we just as marooned, thrown into this era, in these situations, in these bodies, by physics and chaos and biology and history and God knows what else, and expected somehow to live through it? And how do we live through it? Oh, Camus replied, by being very, very French, with passion and freedom and a revolt, with the passion to pursue the joy of being for the sake of it, with the freedom to at any moment choose to continue, to choose to live, to create hope internally, and with the spirit of revolution, a rebellion against the harshness and strangeness of existence itself. Nothing will last, and maybe I'll never understand what the world is here for, what I'm here for, and then I'll live even more intensely. I won't just gaze into the abyss, I'll maintain uncomfortable eye contact with it. I'll go get laser eye surgery so I can stare even harder. You think you're empty abyss? You should see my fucking DMs, mate. What would Camus do? Eat, pray, love? Sure, but equally well, drink, blaspheme, shout profanities at lampposts, take up the mandolin, dye one's dick blue, no idea. But this is the burden of freedom. This is the weight of being. This is absurdism. Perhaps there's a holy watcher in the sky. Perhaps we're an alien experiment. Perhaps it's all just atoms and chance. Who can be sure? Not us. Not yet.
Not
But
yet.
we can dance in the mystery, absurdism says, with the dance as the point all along.
Yeah.
Born into an absurd theatrical performance that makes no sense, and rebelling against the lack of sense itself by being better and kinder and weirder. Living inside a paradox and still doing the dishes, knowing we might never know what it was all about, and carrying on anyway.
Yeah.
Courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is the mastery of fear. It is saying to oneself, wow, that thing really scares me. I guess I'll just go ahead and do it anyway, though.
Yeah.
Likewise, absurdism isn't an answer to the mysteries of life, why bad things happen, where the universe came from, or how to survive this shit. It's just asking the question, oh God, what if we never achieve final explanations? What if we never see the big picture? What if we go our whole lives without ever having known what it was all about? And replying to oneself, oh look, it's a puffin. It's a nice puffin. It's a nice day. Oh, we're alive. That's unprecedentedly weird and cool, whether it's fully explained or not. Let's go for a beer.
Yeah. In my opinion, there's really not that big of a difference between existentialism and absurdism. It's not like absurdism just says give up. It's the exact opposite. But absurdism is also like, don't sweat it if you don't figure it out, which is a pretty good philosophy to live by, right? Everyone's life is filled with projects that they'll never complete, and it's okay. This Sigma male grind set nonsense is repeated by hypocrites who don't live those lives because they can't live those lives because they're human beings. Okay? So it's, embrace the unknown, right? Stare it in the eye uncomfortably, as the narrator put it.
Sorry, one more thing. Another shameless book plug, huh? I got...
Buy his books, buy his merch. This person is obviously talented and well-informed. Once again, check out Exurba. 2.5 million subscribers, so obviously not the first one to discover this amazing narrator, editor, presenter. Really good work. Love it. Loved it. Loved it, loved it, loved it. There you go, folks. There you go. That's your special presentation. Special presentation. Thank you, everybody. This has been a special presentation from the News Underground about the meaning of life. Okay, when's the last time a political news channel? When's the last time a political news channel, had a special about the meaning of life? Huh? How many has Vosh done? How many has Destiny done? That's right, 0, because they suck. You want the realness? You want that real shit? Well, you came to the right place. This is the motherfucking News Underground. Garbage Fuel Awards to every motherfucker in this chat. Thank you so much. Being true OGs. You're loved. You're appreciated. Extra special props goes out to my boy Lenny for comping that. Lenny and Davey for comping that Garbage Fuel merch. You guys are the best. Thank you for your support. But Woke Patriot, Leon, Zio Duke, Davey, Lenny again, all you lurkers, thank you so much. DCH, I see you in there. Thank you so much. Where's that Garbage Fuel tune? Need that Garbage Fuel theme. I got to do more Garbage Fuel related stuff. Equal Dari, thank you so much for showing up. Hope you enjoyed that. I hope you've discovered the meaning of life. That was the goal of the stream. If you haven't discovered the meaning of life, then I failed. So I hope you now understand the meaning of life. It's just that simple, folks. It's easy. I got all the answers. I literally have all the answers. I even know the meaning of life. That's I'm beating the religious weirdos to the punch. I'm gonna beat them at their own game. I'm going to beat them at their own game. Wildly promise you eternal life. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Peace in that motherfucking Middle East. Glory to the Ukrainian democracy. Yada yada. 3-step program. It's been a special presentation about the meaning of life, nihilism, existentialism, and absurdism. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. #1 political news stream on the motherfucking network. Fuck you, Jeff Bezos. I'm kidding. I love you, Roblox. Bye.